I can feel those juices pumping now.
Hola hola, it's Fabi. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I am so glad that you stopped by. Now, first things first, I know that I haven't posted a new video in a while now. My last video was actually a vlog of the time that we went to Colorado in the beginning of January. If you haven't checked that out already, I will go ahead and leave the link down below in the description box for you guys to check that out. Now, the reason why I haven't posted a video in a while is because the holidays came around and I do go down to go visit my family, and when I'm down there, it's not that I don't have time to record a new video, it's just that I like to spend my time with my family and pretty much not doing anything else. So now that the holidays are over with, I'm going to take advantage of the time and actually be able to record more videos for you guys and post them. So for today's video, I wanted to do something of an advice video where I could give you guys tips and advice and just methods of how to go from being a C student all the way to being an A+ student. Now, a little disclaimer, these are tips and methods and advice that I personally utilized when I was in college because I did struggle a lot in high school. It was more of just finding that motivation. I didn't really care, so I would just settle for the lowest grades possible. I did get B's, but it was mostly C's, and I didn't really care as long as I passed the course. Now, I did change a lot once I got into college, and I had to completely just change all of my habits and how I was able to get all these grades. Now, what might have worked for me might not work for you guys, so that's just a little disclaimer there, and some of the tips and methods might actually work. Now, this video is going to be quite lengthy, and it's going to be of me having to do a lot of talking. So if you haven't done so already, go to the restroom, go grab a snack, go grab a friend, go grab a notebook, whatever you need to do. And I'm going to stop blabbering now, and let's get on to the video. To start off my first tips and advice, my first one would be finding your motivation. So once you get into college, or you know you're gonna go to college, or you're there, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions such as, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? How did I get here? And where do I see myself in 3 to 5 years after graduating or while I'm graduating? Now, for me personally, once I got to college, I was able to ask myself all these questions. So I realized that I was able to get here or there with the help of my family and my parents. And so I wanted to do that for them, not only for myself, but I really wanted to make them proud and help them along the way. And I knew the struggle that it was for them to help me to get there. So I really wanted to do that for them. Now, seeing myself in 3 to 5 years, I knew that I wanted to be either graduated or I wanted to be in a specific place in my job field. By asking yourself these questions of where you want to be or what you're going to be doing for those few years, start off with making yourself some goals, which brings me to my next tip, is making a list of short-term or long-term goals, or even both. Now, goals are very, very helpful in a way where it's a motivation and it just pushes you to achieve the goals that you have set for you. Now, my first semester of college, I had to sign a contract, and it was actually framed. I know it sounds a little cliche, but it was framed by the university, and I was able to receive it. And I placed this in a location in my dorm where I was able to see it every single day. Now, since I was able to see it every single day, it was probably the first thing that I would see in the morning, and it was just kind of a constant reminder of what I'm doing, why am I doing this, and what do I want to be doing. Now, some examples that I personally give myself is maybe receiving all A's in all of your classes, making the dean's list, making the president's list, or maybe an invitation to a specific honor society academic wise. Now, long-term goals can be anything from academics, social life, or even society wise. Now, whether you want to be in a specific area in your job by the time you graduate, if you want to graduate with high honors or just honors overall, or just where you are in society. Whatever you picture in your future, make sure you write those goals down. Now you want to write them down and place them in a place around your room or anywhere with you where you know you're going to be able to see them every day, because the first thing you want to do is wake up and read them. That way, again, it's a constant reminder and it's a constant motivation, and it just pushes you to help you achieve those goals. Now that you have all that down, start by making yourself a schedule. Now, believe it or not, this is probably the one that's often less used and probably the most important one that you need to be using, because it will save you from a lot of stressful nights and just days. Within your schedule, not only should you include some times or time frames for working on designated schoolwork or school study, you should also have some me time and some time frames of just focusing on your social life. An example of my schedule, I basically just had a simple dry erase board on my dorm room wall, and I would have all of my deadlines or any important assignments or tests coming up, basically anything that I had gotten from the syllabus, and I wrote it down. I did have my work schedule right next to all of my schoolwork schedule, and then on the side, back in college, I did work out a lot. On the side, I did have a gym schedule of the days that I was going to be going, what I was going to be doing that day, and any classes that I was going to be taking that day in the gym. Now, another great strategy that really worked for me was writing everything down on sticky notes and putting it on my mouse pad on my laptop. I did carry my laptop everywhere I went, not only to class and sometimes to work, and I always had it in my dorm. It was a constant reminder of what I had to do with my schoolwork. This isn't a great tip or advice, but if I knew that in a specific day the professor wasn't going to be going over anything important, or I was just excelling in that class and it was basically a class that I just really needed to sit through, since I did have my computer, I would work on all the assignments that I had written down on the sticky note on the computer during class. But if you know that you're really confident that you do not need any information the professor has to give you that day, then feel free to just work on those assignments. When I was finished with a certain assignment or a certain project that I had to complete, I would just scratch them out. And let me tell you, scratching it out when you are complete, it is probably one of the best feelings out there, because you are done. You are done. My next tip and advice, oh, by the way, if you hear any like lawnmowers outside, I'm sorry, it's because my neighbor just decided to cut his grass. My next tip would be, do not cram.
SpongeBob?
I can't do it. I can't do it, Squidward.
Now, we often feel that, oh, I'll just do it later. We procrastinate. It happens. I did that a lot too, guys. I wasn't perfect, but I kept the procrastination to a minimum. But try to not cram, because at this point, you're just cramming, and you're not even memorizing, which I do not suggest to do, but you're not learning and you're not memorizing, and then the next day, you're going to be so tired. So if you try to pull an all-nighter and you're just cramming all your work, it's not going to help, because it's gonna go bloop, bloop. It's gonna go in and out. It's not going to be worth it, because the next day you're going to be tired, your brain is going to be fried, so all of that staying up and trying to cram was going to be for nothing. What I would suggest would be study intervals. So I would suggest to study about for 45 minutes, because let's be real, a lot of our attention spans are not that long. And mine isn't. I did not sit in my college room or in the library for 2 hours just trying to study. There were times where I did, but I would have a lot of breaks in between, because my attention span is not that long. So if you have to study for about 30 or 45 minutes and then take a 15-minute breather or break for you to go do anything, or just be on your phone or just do something else, do it. Because after a specific time where you just keep studying repeatedly and just all the way through, you're not retaining the information as much as what you did in the beginning. What helped for me, and hopefully it does help for you guys, is that I would know, because I had a schedule, I would know what was coming up and what was going to be important. So I would basically just set aside 2 hours for me within my schedule to just focus on studying. So within those 2 hours, I did have those 45 minutes or 30 minutes and then 15 minutes and then so on until I completed those 2 hours. Once I was done with those 2 hours, I would either redirect my focus on another assignment that was not that important, or just going to go do something that you want to go do and do not focus on that assignment anymore. I do suggest that if you have a test coming up that's very, very important, please start studying. Probably my best advice would be a week before, because if you study a week before, yes, you're gonna be like, oh, if I study a week before, I'm gonna forget everything by the time the test comes. No. Now if you're studying for a week before, I would suggest for you to study for about 30 minutes. Don't focus too much on the important information. Focus on the stuff that you know you already learned. By the time the test starts getting closer, focus more on your attention on this material that you actually do not know and that you actually need to learn. And like I said, divide your studying time within the day. That way you're not cramming everything in the night before. And I do suggest though that even if you did study way prior to your exam date, to review all of the information, as much as information, not cramming, just kind of just reviewing and just going over the day of your test up until you even get the test paper. What helped a lot for me would be actually teaching it to somebody else, depending on the material and depending on the course, of course. I was learning to understand and I was actually teaching it to somebody, so I needed to know that I actually learned the material, and it was actually just cementing it in my brain even more, because the more you're explaining it to somebody, the more you're repeating it to yourself, the more and more it cements into your brain. Moving on to my next tip and advice would be utilize your resources. I cannot stress this out. Utilize your resources. Now, I would suggest to utilize all the programs that the university has for you. Attend all of, maybe if you need a tutoring session, or if you need to go to the writing center, go talk to your professor, go to their office hours, and even go to the TA's office hours. Utilize your friends, ask your friends. Now, if you do have to email them, I would suggest for you to get all your work done before. That way you have a lot of time to email them and actually them explaining it to you, rather than the day before you emailing them, because you don't want to look bad as well. My next tip and advice would be making connections. Making connections probably saved my life in college, and truly did help me out a lot. Besides everything else, yes, I made lots and lots of connections, so I knew if I needed any help, I would be able to go to anybody that I knew would be able to help me. So what I would suggest you guys to do would be set out to find any upperclassmen or any other classmates or students that will be in your same major as soon as you get to your classes, because these upperclassmen have already taken practically all these other courses that you've already taken, so they already know how the professor works, how the class works, and what assignments you're going to be taking, what assignments you're not going to be taking, and how the exams are going to be, and the percentage of what's weighted and what's not. Now, just make connections overall, not only upperclassmen and people in your same career, also find other just friends, because they're also going to be taking your lower division courses, and they can pretty much recommend you, just like anybody else, what professors and what courses to take. Moving on to my next tip and advice would be do as much research on your professor as you can. Now, yes, all of your connections this is when they're going to come in handy, because they're going to tell you exactly how the professor works and operates in their classroom. Now, what I utilized was a website called rightful.com. Most of the time, most of my professors were on there, so I would go through the reviews and the comments that they had about the professor. That way I could kind of get a feel of what the professor will expect in the classroom. But if they weren't on there, again, this is when your connections come into play. This is when they will be able to help you, because you will just be able to contact them, and they will be able to let you know what professor they took and most likely you will be able to find at least one of your connections that have taken that professor. My next tip would be, don't let yourself slack off your first 2 years of college. Now, I know that these are your lower division courses, but they are probably just as important or even more important when they have to deal with your GPA, because your lower division courses are more likely going to be the easiest of any of the courses that you've taken as compared to your higher division courses, and they're going to really weigh your GPA. Moving on to my next tip is, don't be afraid to ask questions. I understand that sometimes it can be intimidating, or professors can just be completely jerks about it, like scoffing or rolling their eyes because they just don't want to repeat what they just repeated, or they just don't want to do their job. Now, don't be afraid, because if you have that question, most likely 20 other people have the exact same question or something similar, and it can really help somebody else out and yourself. Now, in the end, it's not what the professor thinks. In the end, it's your career and your grade. The next one is, take advantage of all the extra credit, whether it's 1 assignment or 5 assignments.
Extra credit!
Only because this can really help you out in the end, and it can really save you from a lot. Now, when I was in college, I tried everything to have the highest grade as possible. I wouldn't accept anything below a 95. So even if I had 5 assignments that were all extra credit, I would do them all. Whether it's you doing course evaluations, or just going to the writing center, or just doing an extra test, but that's rare, or just any other type of assignment, just do it, because it's better to be safe than sorry. Even if I had like 100, there was this actually one time that in my history class I had a 100 and the score was weighted in points. I did all the extra credits and I went above 100. I think I got like 130. And even if I had a 95, I did all the extra credit, because it's better to receive 100 than a 95, just because it's higher and it makes you feel really good about yourself. Next one is showing up to class, because a lot of people don't show up to class and they think that they don't need to show up to class, but just show up to class, because even if you do know all that information or anything else, show up, because in the end, if you're struggling with your grade, or you want those 2 extra points, or that even that 1 extra point, sometimes professors give extra credit just by showing up, and they will check their attendance roster when it comes to giving you that grade, or you reaching them, or you're reaching out to them in email asking for that extra point. They're going to see that you've been showing up to class, and they're most likely, if they're nice professors, trust me, I've seen professors that are really rude. You try your best throughout the semester and you do go to class all the time, but they don't want to give you that extra point. But a lot of professors are very kind enough to give you that extra point, because they've seen you try, they've seen you going to their office, reaching out to them, maybe submitting assignments early, and just going to class. So that's really going to count. And like I say, it's better to be safe than sorry. Next one is, read the syllabus. If you're coming in blindfoldly, like if you didn't find any information from any of your connections or any of your resources on the professor or the classroom, make sure that the first day you head to your dorm or head to your apartment, wherever you're heading, and read the syllabus, because that's going to give you another feel of what the class is going to consist of, and what your grade is going to be, what assignments are going to be weighted on your final grade. And that's very important, because if you feel that maybe this class, the only grades that are going to be taken is 2 exams, and then throughout the first 2 weeks of the class or the first week of the class you find it very difficult, drop the class. Don't stay in it, because it's going to be a high disadvantage for you. On to my last 2 tips. The next one is, submit all of your assignments early. I'm only saying this is because if you submit your assignments a lot earlier, maybe like a day before or 2 days before, the professor is most likely going to review it and take a look at it, and going to send it back to you with what they think you need to fix, or pretty much a cheat sheet of what you need to do to receive that A on the assignment. So that's going to be very helpful in just bringing your grades up. Last tip but not least is, always answer all the questions on your exams, because a lot of professors, what they like to do is give partial credit if you've at least attempted a question or tried to do it. Even if you don't really know much about it, or you're just completely clueless, try to answer it, because it's better to receive partial credit than just a 0 on that question. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube family, and make sure to also hit the like button to like this video. Make sure to also turn on the post notification bell. That way you guys can get notified every time I post a new video. And like always, I will see you guys on the next one. Bye!